Yeah, this is my only class that's meeting through Skype or anything like that.
Yeah, same here.
All right, guys. Hey, how's it going?
All right.
Hi.
Good.
So, right. So, to give you an idea of, in some sense, how I imagine this format going forward, which is, in some sense, limiting, but in other senses, I think it can be pretty valuable. I mean, we can just make the most of it, I suppose, is probably the way to say it. Um, so, right. Here's my plan. So I don't know if you got a notification that I started recording this just so that on a daily basis we have a record should, I don't know, someone be in a time zone or something that makes it difficult to get in at 9 a.m. Who knows what the circumstances could be. I just want to make sure that we have a record of this. So I've got the ability to present here. Give me 1 second here to get this rolling. Um, so basically, I think when I get the presentation going, yeah, like you'll be able to see what's going on my desktop, um, which right. One of the things that I sort of picked up, I guess, before they got snatched up online is like a document camera. So this is essentially going to allow us to interact somewhat normally. I mean, we can like, write stuff out here and as we talk through things, and then we've got voices, and we've also got this sort of chat window as well. I think whenever you're in the Skype interface, if you click this little like uh, it says I am here. If you click the little sort of like conversation icon, you'll be able to get into the conversation as well. Because I mean, it's possible that I'm just blowing through something and you're not really interested in interrupting per se, but you want to get your question asked. This would be a way to make that happen as well. So we'll have the conversation tab up here, and we'll have what I've got here, I guess, is currently just blank, but in due time, we'll have things written up there to work through. And then I think I've got, yeah, so I've got just to make sure that we're sort of all on the same page in terms of the resources that we have available. Um, the link that you have all followed, and I think there's a decent number of this here, actually, 18. Sweet. I mean, that's a pretty good number. It's not full participation, but maybe some more will roll in time. We'll have our class meetings here. So my plan is to just meet via Skype during our regular class time because, I mean, shoot, y'all have paid for the conversations that we would have during this time otherwise. And I'm actually, strangely hopeful and optimistic that actually with this, the ability to ask questions sort of in silence, the ability to ask questions aloud, and the ability to see what's going on, we might interact at least as well as we did previously, which could be strange. Oh, and I should say it would probably help to see a face. Okay, there we go. Right. So my camera's got the ability to do like this picture-in-picture thing, which I feel really fortunate that one of my colleagues at another university sort of made me aware of this technology, and I was able to scoop one up like a week ago before they got swooped up on Amazon. So right. So ultimately, we'll be able to be somewhat interactive through this experience. And yeah, so the link that you've got here for class is just, it's going to work every day to meet for class and to go over the material that we do. And like I said, I'll be recording it so that on a daily basis, should circumstances ever be such that you're not able to attend class, you'll have the ability to view class. And my plan is to take the viewings of class and to post those to Moodle. I think so I don't violate federal law, I have to post those like sort of privately on YouTube or whatnot. So those will not be public, but all the links will be available in Moodle so that you'll be able to see that. When it comes to office hours, whereas during class, I think I'm the only one who can take control of the screen and like do a presentation. During office hours, anyone who attends that meeting is able to do a presentation. So like if you're working on something or have work of something and you want to like show your phone up over the work that you've done to like convey what you've worked through and where your thoughts are currently at, that would be possible. Even if you've taken camera phone photos of your work and you want to put them on your laptop and then present what your laptop has, which are like pictures of your workings, that would be perfectly fine as well. And even if you don't want to use the presentation bit of it, and you just want to sort of like interact, whether by video or by voice, that's perfectly fine too. It says I can request control for a presentation for your information. Okay, cool. So I guess I could give control if somebody was interested. Yeah. So I apparently have the ability to let anybody get access. Oh, that's awesome. It looks like we got even more people here now. This is I feel very good about this. I appreciate you guys and your willingness to roll with the circumstances. My goodness, this is fairly unusual stuff that we're in the midst of here. Right. So I guess the Moodle is going to be somewhat similar to how it is previously. I mean, like obviously we've got this office hour and the class link. I mean, I've got all my office hour times listed here. If you're like interested in meeting at another time, you can certainly shoot me an email and we can try to work things out to meet during a different time. That's not a problem. Be aware of the fact though that this office hour link, you might click this during office hour time and there might be like 3 calculus students in there as well. That's completely possible because well, that's the nature of office hours. I don't recommend necessarily like distributing this link to a lot of people, because if word gets out that like there's a math instructor available at a particular time, I don't know how that could sort of evolve. So maybe I hope I don't have to change this link in time, but hopefully this can stay like a reasonably private way for us to interact, in spite of the fact that all of my classes have this link. I guess both of my classes. Right. So we've got my plan is to go through commentaries just like we have in some sense, because I think now more than ever these are going to be really helpful tools in our learning. So this will help us support our conversations together and sort of build off of what we've discussed. And I guess what's going to be maybe slightly different with Moodle is how homework will be submitted, because obviously we're not going to be risking virus transmission to hand papers back and forth to each other. So to do the homework submission, we'll be doing that remotely here through Moodle. So I'm suspicious of the fact that y'all being like the 3rd or 4th year students, you've done this type of thing before, but in the event that you haven't, this will take any photo, any PDF of your working, and it will also take like multiple photos or multiple PDFs. I think it'll take up to like 20. Now, it's highly unlikely that any of your homework submissions are 20 pages long. If 20 pages is not enough, then just let me know. But frankly, if you have more than 20 pages, you could even like merge photos into one like PDF or something. That's totally doable with technology. But yeah, ultimately you can just take a photo of the 5 pages of your work and submit that, and one photo at a time, one PDF at a time is totally acceptable. And in light of the circumstances, because this is sort of an unusual kickoff to this new system, to give us some chance to familiarize ourselves with it, the homework submission here, I'll take homework any day during the week, and I'll take the makeup homework any day during the week. So any homework that was like officially due on a particular day this week, any day this week will be fine to get that in. I'm not going to be sort of miserly in terms of my way of going about this. So yeah, so I think I put a due date in here. Yeah, Friday at 5 o'clock. So that'll give you guys some time to sort of acclimate yourself to the system and ultimately get your homework submitted. So right. So that's I guess, I think those are the resources that we have available to us for this class. I could be missing something, but I think that's that, because we don't have the web assign, or nope. I think this is what we've got. So right. So then how are things going to move forward here as well? So I think I am. So I've got actually a stack of your tests from before break here on my desk, which I suppose getting these back to you is going to be difficult. in person. So my plan with that is to take camera phone photos, merge into a PDF, and send each of you a PDF of your sort of graded tests as well as the graded homework, which I have here to get to you. So at some point, realistically, let's call it tomorrow to be realistic here. Let's say at some point tomorrow, you'll get an email from me, which will include your test and your past homework to sort of get that to you. Now, the test that I wrote before break was a little tough, honestly. I mean, I kind of knew that going into the test, but I mean, I guess that's the purpose of a test, right? Is to I see where your level of understanding is. And one thing that I had sort of baked in, I guess, whenever I wrote the test is I knew that our system of working tests would allow us to revisit questions or topics that would have been tested, so that we could have a chance to earn back a number of the points and to ultimately to acclimate ourselves to the material that was being tested. An incidental benefit, I suppose, to the fact that we have this sort of remote learning environment is it's going to be tricky moving forward, frankly, when it comes to testing, because I mean, are we all going to be like going online at the exact same time to take the test in a timed setting or something? That's a little bit awkward, right? So, this actually, like in terms of getting makeup for the test, my plan is, so let me write this down so we're on the same page. So, let's see. So we got the test and homework. These will be the graded work. Will be returned, just to be safe, Tuesday, and this will be a PDF via email. So I think that's technically legal within like federal regulations and whatnot to get the graded work back to you. And right, so and then in terms of the makeup for the test, it's just going to be hard to do that in person. So, in fact, henceforth, doing these things like in person or in sync is going to be pretty tough to pull off. So, when it comes to the makeup, actually, my plan is to accept that in written form. Basically akin to homework. And in fact, one of the things that we'll be sort of working towards this week is to sort out some of the questions that were on the test. Because in fact, I guess when I reflect upon some of the questions that were on the test, there were some questions that like nobody got right, for example. So and that's not an indictment on you all. That's just some of these questions were sort of multi-layered. And I think what's going to be nice about that is when it comes to the makeup for the test, some of the test questions I'm going to be able to like have you work the exact same problem. So that will be that will give you a chance to earn back some of the points. And I think the test was 19 points. And so technically I give you guys the opportunity to make up half the points. So I'll give you a chance to make up 10 of the points through makeup, which looking at the scores, I think there might have been a few of you that got more than 10 points on the test, but I think most of the scores were probably in like the 4 to 7 range, which doesn't sound very good out of 19. But hey, with the opportunity to get 10 points made up, even a score that's between 4 and 7 can be pretty respectable out of 19. And I really think that especially the problems that you're going to be getting, which are a carbon copy of the problems from the test, I think those are going to be the best problems to rework, because like the act of going through those problems is going to really solidify what we saw going into the test and what was ultimately being tested. So It's just going to be this is a nice checkpoint for us moving forward. And I think actually going through this in the coming week is going to help get y'all back into the routine, because my suspicion is there's been some rust that's accumulated over the course of 2 weeks, having not really had an abstract algebra discussion in all likelihood. So, right. That is what it is. So yeah, so we've got the Moodle, and we've got then we'll sort of work through class and things here. So at this point, any questions before venturing into other territory?
I guess the lessons will be posted later in the day, because well, the reason why I'm asking is I'm not in a good position to take notes right now, so I plan to take them after the class, wherever I can pause and whatnot.
Okay. Yeah. So how long it's going to take for those to upload onto YouTube, I'm not sure, but because they're probably going to be pretty big files, to be perfectly honest. But whatever. It's probably going to be later in the day.
That's fine. It is what it is. It's just I can't really take notes in this chair at my room or whatever. So
Yeah, no sweat. And I was thinking about this too, because someone asked the question, like, would it be in my last class, I guess this morning, they were asking, like, could I take photos of the work and submit it online? And I might do that too. So and I don't, because I don't want that to like replace the note-taking process per se, because it's probably going to be helpful to go through the act of writing things down, depending on your learning style, I suppose. But yeah, I might do that as well. I'm sort of on the fence about that, but yeah, so that could be an option as well. But yeah, I'll definitely upload the video, and it'll take as long as it takes, but to upload, but that shouldn't be a super long process. Other questions or thoughts here related to what we've discussed so far? Okay, so right, so I guess the main purpose of today's meeting is really to get our feet back on the ground and sort of remind ourselves of some of the things that we've discussed. I see there might be a typing, so I'll pause as need be to hit the questions that are being asked. But right, so to sort of like to sort of review some things here. So sorry, when is the next test? Oh yeah, good question. So this is I was really wanting to have more than just one more test moving forward before the final, but I think the way that circumstances are, where we lost the week, so when it comes to the next test, when it comes to tests and quizzes here moving forward, my plan is to have one test and one quiz between now and the final exam. So, and one final exam. When is it going to be? Not exactly sure. Let's tentatively say in like among the last, let's say 3 to 5 days of class. So what day that's going to be, I don't know, but it's so essentially like in the last week or two. I think we might end class on a Wednesday, if my memory serves me. So it could be anywhere between that last Wednesday. I mean, maybe it could be ultimately even to the previous Friday or something. So well, maybe that's 6 days of class, but somewhere in this, if this is the last day of class here on a calendar, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So it'll probably be within that time frame towards the end of the semester. So whenever that turns out to be, that'll be when we have a test. I think honestly, expectations have to be appropriately tempered within the big picture, because yeah, we lost a week at the very least. You may have gone over this, but how are we taking next quizzes and exams? I haven't gone over this. Right. This is it's tricky. I think because it's probably going to be something to the effect of I send out a PDF and or I post something on Moodle, and then you have to submit on Moodle within some frame of time. And what is going to be the right frame of time there? I don't know. So ultimately, these will be these will be through Moodle. And when I say through Moodle, it doesn't mean that we're going to be through is probably the wrong word. These will be posted to Moodle. Essentially, what you could think of these as like timed homework exercises or something to this effect. Although, um, yeah, like so it's basically there's sort of going to be like I guess what you would imagine a take-home test to be in some sense, but sort of the amount of problems that are on there and the difficulty of the problems is going to be sort of relative to the amount of time that you have. So my guess, just thinking, and I'm spitballing here because I haven't really thought about this completely. I'm guessing is you'll probably have like 24 to 48 hours to work on these whenever the test comes around. So that because honestly, if I give you a take-home test for a week with a week's time, nobody would want to see what those problems would look like. Like many professors, I would probably falsely assume that you would be pouring just hours upon hours of time into the test, and to really assess with that much time, it would be a mess. So I think 24 to 48 hours is probably going to be the right amount of time because the problems that would be asked would be maybe like the harder problems from the test that you saw in class on Friday, but unlike Friday, like the last time we met a few weeks ago. But unlike that time, these problems you would have 24 to 48 hours to work them. So I think that would be like a fair level of difficulty, all things considered. And when I say all things considered, because quizzes and tests, you'll have an opportunity to revisit those. And I think, honestly, moving forward, the best way to do the makeup for the quizzes and tests is, again, to just do them sort of in written form akin to homework, because we've sort of lost the opportunity to get this quiz and test live in-person rhythm, because that's just a consequence of circumstances. So, right. So to answer the question, how are we going to be taking next quizzes and exams? I haven't decided completely, but my suspicion is unlike the standard homework exercises, where I guess those are technically timed too, in the sense that you've got like a week or whatnot. The quizzes and tests are probably going to be on a 24 to 48 hour time frame. So I'll put a PDF on Moodle, and maybe I'll put it up there to like release at like 9:50 a.m. or something on a particular day, and then have it due by like 9 o'clock either on the following day or the day after, something to that effect. So hopefully that answers your question. Yeah, when the next test is towards the end of the semester, how quizzes and tests are going to look, not exactly sure, but probably something timed through Moodle. I think that makes the most sense. Right. So, as you have other questions, don't hesitate to just sort of let them flow in. And even as I'm talking through some of this sort of more mathy stuff, like as always, just fire away with your questions, because it's going to be especially important here moving forward that we sort of like are making the most of our class time and sort of anchoring this material in our head as much as possible, because I mean, you can't just like sort of stroll down the hall from the math suite and find me in my office and pick my brain a little bit. We will still have office hours, yes, and we will still have our class time, yes. But I think trying to make the most out of class time is going to be especially vital here as we proceed forward. So. Right, again, feel free to fire away with questions as you have them. Now, when it comes to sort of getting our feet back on the ground, right, so where to start here? I mean, we could go all the way back at the beginning and talk about what exactly a group is. Maybe that's worth mentioning, I suppose, because I mean, we've really spent the majority of our semester discussing groups, which are sets with operations. And when I say operations, binary operations. Right. And so that means two things go in and one thing comes out. And so you just have a single operation. So let me be very clear about this. It is a binary operation. Let me be slightly more precise. And then you've also got a unique identity element or neutral element. You've got unique inverses, and you've got an associative operation. So this is what comprises a group, and this is sort of essentially the major object that we've studied. Now, when we talk about groups, there are sort of some fundamentals that are associated. Within a group, you could have groups there as well. So like within a group, you could have other groups, right? So a subgroup is exactly that. So a subgroup is a non-empty subset of a group that is itself a group. So we've talked about subgroups, certainly. We've talked about lots of groups. So, right, you could have a group being the real numbers remove 0 with multiplication. By the way, when I say unique inverses, just to be very clear, this is for all elements in the group. So I'm being a little bit colloquial in my presentation, actually a lot colloquial, but we've got enough familiarity with these things. But yeah, you've got to have an inverse for every element in the group. And right, so the real numbers with 0 removed would give you this, because removing 0 is necessary in order to make sure that you've got the inverses for every element. But now if you look within this group, so if this is the group that you're focusing on, you have a set -1, 1, for example, that is a non-empty subset of this group that is itself also a group. Because when you look with respect to multiplication, you have a binary operation. There's no way to operate out of this set, taking two elements at a time and multiplying them. You have the identity, you have inverses. The identity is its own inverse, and then the non-identity element in this case is its own inverse as well, coincidentally. And the operation is associative because, well, it came from the original group, which was associative there too. So we've seen subgroups. And two other things that are sort of fundamentally important: order of elements. So when you take a element from a group, you can look at its order. So this is the minimum positive integer, such that, let's say, g to the m equals e. So the minimum positive integer m, to be specific, such that g to the m is e. So if you had the identity element as your g, the minimum positive integer would be 1. But for something that's not the identity, the minimum positive integer is going to be at least 2, right? And if no such integer exists, then what do we say? Then we say the order is infinite in that case. So order of an element is quite fundamental. And let's see, I think I can squeeze in here to get the last little bit of review to get us on the like the fundamental objects of study in place here. We talked about cosets as well. So cosets are sets of the form G star H, where H is a subgroup of our group and G is some element of our group. So a coset is of the form G star H, and it's a set, but it's not just any set, it's a particular set, which is a group element times all elements in a subgroup. Right, and so H is a subgroup. Remember, whenever we use this less than sign, that's referring to a subgroup. And then we've got G being any element from the big group. So cosets are kind of interesting because whereas H is its own subgroup, this G could be coming from the outside of the group, so to speak. And right, that's, I guess interesting in some sense. And in fact, when you have any group and any subgroup, you could talk about the cosets. Actually, just looking here on the page, I'm sort of curious to think about what the cosets would look like whenever we would work with respect to this group and this subgroup. I don't think we've ever looked at this one, to be perfectly honest. So let's do that. So as an example, just to get ourselves back in the rhythm, what if G is this group of non-zero real numbers, and what if H was -1, 1? Right, and then the question is, what are the cosets of G with respect to H? Perfectly reasonable question to ask, and in fact something that we can investigate. So right, how can you start investigating cosets? Well, you can start taking elements from the group and multiplying by the elements in H. So what would elements from the group look like? I don't know. You could start just grabbing elements at will. I don't know. You could do a half, or -1/4, or 3, or pi. Pi is a real number, remove 0. You could do, I don't even know if we have to do more than that, honestly. Let's just take a look at what these 4 would equal, because I think we'll get a feeling for what's going on. Take a half and now multiply it by every element in H. Well, that's going to be a half times -1 and a half times 1. That's going to be -1/2 and +1/2. Right, this next guy is going to be -1/4 and +1/4. The next one's going to be 3 and -3. Pi and -pi. You can actually see what starts to result here. We get, we would get, like, I claim we would get a lot of cosets. I claim we would get infinitely many cosets. Note, infinitely many cosets result. And why would infinitely many cosets result? Well, because for every number off the number line, you get, well, I guess for every positive number off of the number line, you get a coset that is different. So for every G in the group such that G is greater than 0, we get a unique coset. And in particular, that coset is G and -G. So right, so that's interesting, because like a half gives you the coset of half and -1/2, and a fourth gives you the coset of fourth and -1/4, and an eighth would give you the coset an eighth and -1/8. In fact, any positive number would give you the coset, the positive number, comma the negative number. And now what we also notice is this is actually, so what I claim is when you look at all of these cosets for every positive number on the number line, if you look at all the cosets, I claim that's all the cosets. So claim this describes all the cosets because, well, in order for this not to describe all the cosets, there would have to be some negative number off the number line that would provide us a different coset. But, well, for any positive number, the number that is sort of equal to it in absolute value is going to be in the same coset. This describes all the cosets since if G was less than 0, then G star H would be the same as negative G star H. I mean, think about that, right? Because based on the structure of that coset, whether you were looking at a fourth star H or negative a fourth star H, the coset's going to be exactly the same. So if I come over here to where we had negative a fourth and I put a plus fourth, you get the same coset. Plus a half, negative a half, doesn't matter here. You get the same coset in either way. Once you look at all the cosets of the positive numbers, you get all the cosets for the negative numbers as well by the structure of this subgroup H giving you both the positive and negative values in the same coset. So you get a lot of cosets, but yeah, hey, we've got an idea of the structure of these cosets looking at this example, which is kind of cool, I claim. Right. So now we've got these infinitely many cosets, and then you think, okay, so what's going on here? Well, sort of, or what could you sort of do with this now once you know that you have these infinitely many cosets? That's kind of interesting. You can always, because this example is going to lead into something which we saw as well before this sort of hiatus. But ultimately, recall this fancy notation of like a script G sub H. This is the collection of all cosets of G with respect to H. In general, what we showed before we left was that if H is normal in G, then this script G sub H, the collection of all cosets, forms a group. And now, what do we say whenever H is normal in G? This is essentially saying that G star H equals H star G for every G, which is the, oh gosh, sorry, I'm going off the page there. This is the standard characterization for what normality is. A normal subgroup is one for which the left cosets and the right cosets are exactly the same. Right, another way to think about this, which can be very helpful as well, is that G little h G inverse is in H for every G in G and H in H. So that's another way to think about it. And I have ran into my face there. Okay, sweet. So, right, now why do I bring this up? I bring this up because normality, while a nice property and something that cannot be, it's not wow, it's nice. Normality, while difficult to assume is always available, we know that normality is going to be there in the case where we have an abelian group. As soon as you have an abelian group, G star little h equals little h star G, no matter what the G and the H are. So you would you would always get this normality in the case of an abelian group. So if G is abelian, then all subgroups are normal. So in particular, the subgroup that we just were looking at, this subgroup H, is normal in G because G here is abelian. And what does that mean? That means that the collection of cosets here would form a group. And now if you think about this, if you start lining up all of the cosets, we've actually described the cosets in some very particular way. And we've said that we get a coset for every positive real number. And now if you think about this, we get a coset for every positive real number. So in our example, the script G sub H is equal to the set G star H such that G is greater than 0. And here, we're assuming here that G is in R remove 0. Taking this fact, oops, I've also run that one into my face. For every element in our group where the group element is bigger than 0, we get a unique coset. And in fact, as we described with our claim, this describes all the cosets. So holy moly, we get all the cosets from all the positive numbers. And essentially, that's saying that our collection of all cosets is essentially like the positive integers, or not the positive integers, the positive real numbers, the positive numbers off the number line. And now think about that for a second, because I claim this should make like a hell of a lot of sense, right? Because aren't the positive real numbers a group, right? Now, this collection of cosets will be a group. This is a group since H is normal in G. And this is since G is abelian. Our original group was abelian, so every subgroup's normal. In particular, the subgroup we were looking at is normal. And so we get a group, and we kind of have to get a group, right? Because this is the positive real numbers, to be very clear here, with multiplication. And if the positive real numbers with multiplication don't form a group, like what does, right? So note, or I guess recall, or observe, however you sort of have this memorized. If you have it memorized, it's a recall. If you know, it's near the tip of your brain, observe. And if it's, you know, feeling brand new, note, the positive real numbers form a group with multiplication. If you don't agree that they form a group, then please remind yourself of the properties of groups. You've got to have a set with an operation, that we do. You've got to have a unique identity element. We do. 1. You've got to have inverses. You do. Any positive real number's reciprocal is also a positive real number. Well, you've got to have an associative operation, which you do, because multiplication is. So, wow, what this example that we worked through has shown is that, and when I say in our example, to be very clear here, just so we're on the same page, our big group is the real numbers remove 0, and our subgroup is -1, 1. You can look at all of the cosets that are formed. Now, do you have infinitely many cosets? You do, but as a result, what do you get? You get, well, a group with an infinite number of elements that's resulting. And you get a group that, like, you are, like, fairly familiar with. Right, oh, but the video is, let's see, I think we're having problems with the video. That comes from, oh, it's lagging by 4 seconds. Oh, geez. I tell you what, let me try something here. I'm wondering if the file is the file that I'm recording is getting so large. I'm wondering